The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, hi everybody. Going to be testing the microphone here, and we'll wait a few minutes for any more attendees to filter in. One of you guys could let me know that you can hear me. Awesome. Thank you guys. So it says, Eric, you say you can hear me. So we'll be starting here in a few minutes. My name is Eric with BobCAD Tech Support, and I'm also the demo technician. So most of my time is spent doing tickets with technical support to help with any technical issues in the software program, and then any other times that we have demonstrations of the software program scheduled, I am also doing that, showing the software program to any new potential customers and showing any new modules that customers may want to upgrade to if they're interested and want to see a demonstration of it first. All right. Thank you, Dirk. Glad to hear you guys are able to hear me all the way there in California. We're here in the Tampa Bay area here in Florida, and this is our main office here. And yeah, so we'll get started here in a couple minutes. We're going to be going through BobART today and everything that encompasses around BobART, including vectorization, embossing from a drawing or from a vectorized image, and then also modifying the drawing once we've vectorized it. Some useful tips to use for that, for any editing after vectorization with BobART, and then also 3D modeling from the drawing, from the vectorized drawing from the image. And I was thinking we could also go through like laser plasma water jet is a very common machine that we use with BobART. So normally I am showing customers with either laser plasma or water jet machines how to vectorize from an image. If they've got a logo or something like that they're trying to cut out, vectorize that image into a drawing, and then cutting it out on their machine. Also useful for engraving on a milling machine as well, or a router. All right, we're gonna get started here. I'm gonna be going through the BobART package, and if you guys have any questions during the webinar here, you can type them into the questions box. I'll try to answer them throughout the webinar. If I'm not able to get to them at that exact moment, I'll answer all questions at the end also. And we'll get started here by going into BobART. So we have our BobART tab here at the bottom left corner of the screen. This is our default interface of how it looks. So you'll find it normally right here at the bottom left corner of the screen. You can pin it to the side of the taskbar as well here. You can pin all of these so you have more space for your CAD workspace here. And then you can always go back and just kind of highlight it to do your vectorizing, embossing here. You can also expand it. You can click and drag. So if you want to add it to the layers page here, you can just add it there. If you want to move it over, you can move it over to a different monitor if you want to. It's just a free window from there. And you can also put it below the layers page or to the side here as well to stack them side by side there also. So I'll just kind of close out of everything for now, except for that BobART tab that we've gone to. If you don't see it here in your different tabs, it could be closed out, or if you've closed out of it, you can right click here at the top of the screen and you have your other managers, the CAD tree manager, CAM tree manager, layers manager, all here checked green, which is saying that they're showing here. And so if I right click and then go to BobART manager here, click that, it'll be checked green, saying that it is showing now, and it's showing here on the left hand side. So from here, once we've navigated our way to the BobART page, we can go to, we'll go to BobART Manager first, where we can open files. So this is loading a BobART Pro X file from older BobCAD files, and then also loading a vector file. So vector files automatically are already drawings if it's an EPS, PDF file, or AI for Adobe Illustrator. Those are vector files already. And so if we find one here, I don't know if we've got like maybe wing part, I think is a drawing here. We can try to open a setup sheet if we want, but yeah, if it's a PDF file, it'll open automatically right here. There we go. So we've got a drawing. If it's a PDF, we can open it up, and we've got the print here. We can scale it up or scale it down to the size that we need to here, and we've automatically got the PDF file opened up. If I go to my select mode, I can highlight anything in here and delete it. I can translate it, move it around. You can scale it up, scale it down, or modify any geometry in here. So those are PDF files, as well as Adobe Illustrator files and EPS files. Then from the BobART Manager, we can go to a new file here, and we can right-click on Images here, where we can load an image. Whether it's a JPEG, a PNG, any type of file format here. And if we don't have it in this list, you could also, I don't know any other file formats for images, but if it's some kind of obscure file extension that we don't have in here, you could simply go to your Microsoft Paint to open it in there, and then you can save it as a JPEG or something a little more popular, a common file type that you can open in here: JPEG, TIFF, GIF file, PNG. Those are the ones that you normally find on the internet. But again, if not, you can always open it in Paint and save it as a JPEG. So if I go here to all files, I'll find this SVG file. It's another file format for an image. And we can select if we want to rotate it at all. We can easily rotate it around however we want. And we can also change the size in X and Y. So right now it comes in as 7.3 inches in X, comes in as 6.2 inches in Y, and I should be able to just kind of click and drag, changing the size. And we can also, so you can see it automatically updates when I drag it here. I can type in a certain number, we'll say 12 inches in the X direction. It keeps the aspect ratio, so it'll kind of corner drag like that here instead of stretching it in just the X direction and not in the Y. And to change the Y direction and keep this X size as 12, I can uncheck this box, keep aspect ratio, change it to 12 by 12 if I want to do that. So you can see it stretches a little bit in the Y direction as it was imported. But if that's what I want there, we can change it to there. And we'll click OK. And the only other option that was in there was the UCS. So if we're drawing on the top plane here, on the top UCS, we just keep that here. We could also change it to the front or to the side if we want to maybe project the logo onto the side of a part. We can do that here also. We're going to be projecting it right on top here, on the top plane, and click OK. Then from there, it shows us here, image, Tampa Bay Lightning logo 2011, and that's the file name of the image that I brought in. I can right click on that and go to vectorize. So you can see it starts out blank. I'm going to move this bar for the threshold value. So it starts at 0, goes all the way out to 256. And when I drag it here, all the way to the left, it's white. All the way to the right, it's black. And I want to go somewhere in the middle there until I get to how the image looks, so that it creates the drawing in between the black and white or the black and blue that I have in the image, our two-level strategy. We also have a multicolor strategy. So if I had more than 2 colors in here, I've only got the blue and the black. If I had another darker blue color, I can check that box for the other colors in here. So it will vectorize between all of the colors in the image with the multicolor strategy. Select the number of colors that I'm using there, and then check the box for all of the colors that I want vectorized in between of all of those colors. So that's a multicolor strategy. This one's the two-level strategy, which is a little bit easier, I think, where we just move the bar to here. And it also helps us if we've got, like for example, a foreground and a background in the image. The threshold value will, more towards the left, the lower number of the threshold value, will vectorize all of the foreground here. And then if I move it more towards the right, it will vectorize the background and blank out the foreground here, for example. So that's the usefulness for the threshold value slider bar here to do that. And if we wanted to vectorize the foreground and then the background, we could simply go here, blank the image, copy the drawing that we have so that we can paste it with the second vectorization that we wanted in the background. But anyways, so yeah, we've got the threshold value here at a lower number to vectorize for everything here in the image, the foreground, and then we hit OK. And then it will keep the image and the drawing showing. So we want to hide the image so that we can see the drawing that it creates. And I just right click on that image of the file name and go to blank and unblank to show the image again. Now instead of having to right click on this to show and hide every time, we do have a hotkey to show and hide the image. It is the I key on your keyboard. I as in Isaac, or image, to show and hide the image automatically there with that hotkey. And that can be pretty helpful. Say for example, if it doesn't vectorize for whatever reason, a certain area here along the image. So I'm going to delete that and say, for example, I want to sketch this or trace it, you could say. I can create an arc. So I'll just go to arc. I normally do 3 points for something like this here. So I can click on this guy, click on this guy, and then I can change the curvature of the arc, and I'll show the image so that I can get a good idea of how to sketch that. And then we can see that it kind of intersects right here. So if I wanted to, I'm going to turn off these snap point increments here. Go to my utilities. I would break this arc here, for example. Go to break screen where I can break it at a nominal place here. I'll go right here to this intersection. And then from there, We have some CAD functions to help with the curvature to make this a little bit larger, make this one a little bit smaller, to make it look more like the logo here. And we can do that by going to our utilities. So we just went through the break entity functions there. We have our drag corner and deform. So deform would help really well here, where I can make the curvature a little bit larger there. And then I can click on this arc and make the curvature a little bit smaller there, lined up best as I can there. What I could do is I could break it at a certain entity, like right here, make it larger. You know, if I'm more of a perfectionist for the logo, I can spend all day trying to line everything up exactly of how the logo is there. But yeah, another helpful tool in the utilities with deform, we also have drag corner. So we can see it doesn't create a sharp corner right here, because if I show the image, we can see that it is a little pixelated. So it's hard to vectorize with all the pixelation of the image. You know, you don't always have a perfect image, so do our best with the vectorization of that pixelated image. And then once we create the drawing, we can go into drag corner, click on the corner here, and then drag it out a little bit more to make more of a sharp corner there for the logo, or to change anything else here. You know, if we want to make this one drag corner and move it outward there, make it a sharper corner, we can do that. But yeah, those are the two really good utilities in the CAD functions, drag corner and deform, to help with modifying the drawing once it's been vectorized, and then also to trace. Again, we've got that hotkey, the I key on the keyboard, to show and hide the image to help with tracing. So we can back out of the image, see the drawing to modify it, and then when we're going to trace more, we can show the image to trace it again, and then go back and forth tracing that way. Yeah, so we went through the vectorization process there, went through some of the utilities to help with the drawing there. I guess it's a good time to show a new feature in version 35, is where when we go into our select mode and go to modify an entity, we used to have to right click, go to entity modify to modify the length of it, modify the start point, the end point, and there. Now in select mode, we can just double click on a line or an arc, and it will automatically go to the entity modify page here. I can change the length. I can change the start point and end point in the numbers here in the data. Now in version 35, we can also drag and translate the line or arc here by clicking on these certain snap points. So if I click on the midpoint here, I can drag it from the midpoint and move it wherever I want to there. Then cancel to undo it. I'll double click on it again. Click on the endpoint, so it will keep the bottom endpoint fixed, and drag along to move it wherever I want to. And I can join it to a certain line there, or a certain point. Same with this one. Keep that one fixed if I wanted to maybe just go straight across that way. And also, if I highlight one of these endpoints, you can see it shows an x-axis, a y-axis, and this purple arrow as well. So if I click on the x location, it'll move and drag along just in the x direction. If I click on the y-axis, it'll move up and down along the y-axis. And then the purple, it will extend out or trim back further with that dragging along the purple arrow there. Same thing for the top one here. And I believe we have something for the midpoint as well. Let me check that. Yep, so we've got the X and Y direction for the midpoint. I think, yeah, that just drags the entity along the X or the Y axis there. So a lot of cool new edit options there with the entity modify. You just double click on a certain thing here, on a line or an arc, and I believe on a spline as well, which would be pretty cool. So say I made some kind of spiral, or oops, not spiral, but some kind of funky spline like this here. Curvy, I guess you could say. I believe you can double click on it, yep, and then you can change the points to how you need to change the spline there as well. So pretty useful stuff to modify the entities now. Line, arc, spline options there. Also point. It'll modify that one as well. Move it in X, Y, and we got the Z-axis option too, so we can move it above the top plane there also. If we're doing something like a rectangle, we can modify one of the entities at a time to change the size of the shape there, for example. So, trying to see if there's any other utilities to use to help with modifying this. Yeah, so I guess we could go through, so we went through some of the break options. So break screen, it'll just break at a nominal place here or a certain location at a certain point I want to here to select. Break at a certain entity. So if I wanted to break this line along where the arc is, for example, it's usually like with an intersection. I'm just kind of showing this for the trim option after. So under utilities, break entity. So if I wanted to break this arc right at this line, I can break it at that intersection point, make it into two arcs there at that location. Break at a certain angle for a circle or an arc. Break into multiple divisions. So if I wanted to break this in 8 even places, I can do that. And then we'll go into the trim functions real quick for the BobART drawing, the vectorization here as well. So if I go to trim one entity, I can trim or extend this arc, for example, out to this line. Same thing with this one, and same thing with these two. So I'm going to make this one whole circle and cutting everything to cut out the two shapes on the inside, and then get rid of this border here that came in from the image too. Quick trim is one of the useful ones where I can trim away these middle entities and trim away these intersecting things here from the image. Same with right here, so that we've got the opening there, and then same with this one. Okay, and then we'll just click the quick trim, all of these entities on the outside. We're going to zoom into the corners. We can see there's a couple of entities that we want to delete. And now we want to, we could go to trim one entity first. So again, it'll trim or extend out to this line that I selected. If I want them both extended to that point at the same time, that would be our trim two entities. So I'll click both of these lines. They'll both extend out to where they both meet there. Or if they were already intersecting, they will trim any extra geometry to where they both intersect. Go back to my quick trim. Trim away these couple lines here. And you can tell I've done this drawing a few times. I know that there's two tiny lines on both of the sides here that I want to trim away first. Trim two entities might not work here. It does. Just in case they're not, I think the term is concentric. If the two arcs don't align, then it won't. That's why it's failing in this one. So all I need to do is go into that arc 3-point option so that I can create an arc between the two here. And then set the certain curvature that I want for that. And maybe I want it. Nope, that's not what I want. I'm just going to move it over a little bit so that it's not. You know what? I think that's fine. Too much of a perfectionist there. So we've got our logo that I want to work with. I want to cut out these two shapes with either a laser, plasma, or water jet machine, and then cut the outside profile. And so we start by going to CAM, starting a new job, and it's under the milling job type. These are all included in the milling package from Mill Express onward with those modules where you have your 3-axis milling machine as well as laser, plasma, and water jet. So I'm just going to run through quickly how to do that. You go through plasma cutting. We'll define our stock here, make it a little larger for that. Well, actually it shows up there. That's nice. We'll say 13 inches by 13 inches. And set the stock thickness of a 1/2 inch. And then our last page is our machine setup. This is where we're defining our work offset at. So if my work offset is at the bottom left corner of this stock, I'm zeroing out the machine right here, the plasma machine, right there at that corner of the stock, that's where I would click on so that the G code and the G code and the machine line up to exactly that point there. So let's close out of all of this. There we go. Now we start programming. Start programming by going to CAM, starting a new job. Sorry, I got all this mixed up now. Okay, so we start by going to CAM, starting a new job, and then milling. Yes, sorry. So I got that all set up here. Yeah, so we've got our stock, we've got our machine set up, and we've got it all set up here in the CAM tree. All right. Now we'll right click on machine setup, go to mill 2 axis, select our geometry. I'm just going to window select everything. Total depth of a 1/2 inch, just cutting through the material. And I'm going to delete out this profile rough. So we've just got a profile finish cut. For the milling operations, you know, we've got a profile rough, profile finish, pocket, facing, engraving, chamfer mill, corner rounding. We could do drag knife for a vinyl cutting machine, so we could cut out this logo for one of those types of machines here. We would just select drag knife for that. For a milling machine, if we wanted to do an engraving of the logo here on a flat surface, we just go to engraving for that one. But for this one, we're going to do a profile finish with a plasma cutter. We have options for tabs. So if the cutter is going around, we'll say the outside profile here, it could turn off here at this location, turn back on, leaving tabs along the profile so that it doesn't fall onto the table. Same for if we have a router and we're cutting out this shape out of a 4-foot by 8-foot sheet of plywood, for example, and we don't have a vacuum table to hold the part in place, we can create tabs so that it'll retract here, go across and plunge back down, and set multiple tabs here so that it stays in the sheet so it doesn't move around there. Then we can set our work offset. So for milling, number 1 would be G54, 2 would be G55, 56, and so on. Here's where we set the feed rate for the cutter, the diameter so that we can offset for the kerf, pierce dwell time, any power settings we need to set, torch height control if we want to move the cutter up in the Z location there. Then we can go to our tool library where we have different tools in the milling library, the milling tool library. Here for plasma, we can set up a table depending on the stock thickness, material type, and we can set a cutting feed rate and other settings here to program for that material type and stock thickness for default settings in there. Set our compensation. We're doing 1 pass for the plasma cutter. We can set a lead in and a lead out. What I like with the plasma, we can go around the corners here. We can break up the corners with the loop radius so it doesn't stall in the corners too long and burn out the corners there. Machine sequence, if we're cutting multiple parts out, We can set a closest sorting order, no sorting, so we can sort manually, set it in an X or a Y direction there. So I'll hit compute. You can see it's going to cut on the inside here and cut on the inside of this one. It's showing, however, that it's cutting on the inside of this shape here. So I would want to right-click on default, change start point, and modify the directions here. So if I don't want to start it here at the corner also, say I want to start here at the top, I can just click here. It'll start at the midpoint of this line. Click on it again, click on that arrow, and it will reverse the direction of just that profile for us. So instead of hitting reverse direction, which will reverse direction of all three of the cuts, the modify option allows you to reverse the direction of any single profile that you select there. So then we'll right click on the feature, recompute. You can see it's going to start here on this outer profile, but that should be last. It should cut the first two out, and then it'll cut that last one here at the top on the outside. And we can make sure that happens in our simulation. While that's loading, I'll see if you guys have any questions so far. Looks good. All right. So here in our simulation, at the very top, it's got our cycle time. It says it will take 1 minute and 17 seconds. I can move this slider to speed it up or slow it down. I can turn off the toolpath so I don't see that extra stuff in there. Now if I go to this measure tab, you can see this remove chips option. And that's down here, the drop down. We select remove chips and select chips so that we can, should be able to delete some of these entities to see it better. Make sure everything's cut to size, or we could also make it transparent to see the cutting shape there. We can also see the top, go back to the top plane instead of rotating around to see it. We can click on the top surface here, the top plane of this 3D model. We'll go right to the top plane there so we can easily look down on the shape, make sure everything's cut to size. We can see a little bit of moving around here, but that's because of the entities that it was brought in. The shape was a little pixelated. So again, if I'm a little more of a perfectionist, I would zoom in, look at that there, and maybe delete that one out, and then extend out this line to where this one meets, or to where they both meet, I should say. Let's see, there we go. And then so there, a little bit straighter shape there. So I would go back into the CAM tree, reselect my geometry so that it updates, and then recompute the toolpath so it's a little bit smoother transition there. That's about it with programming for a plasma cutter from BobART. And we can just hit post, it'll generate the G-code, and we can save it, put it onto a flash drive, or edit it in our NC editor. And we also have a, we can modify the G-code. Everything here is color coded. X, Y, Z moves are different colors, so we can easily find what we're looking for there. Then we can go to Tools, Start DNC Transfer, so that we could send or receive from the machine with a cable, with an RS-232 cable. Set the port number, baud rate, and all of those settings to send or receive from a cable from your computer. So you have that option, or you can simply save the G-code onto a flash drive, send it over to the controller from there. All right, so we've gone through the BobART vectorization, gone through programming it for either doing an engraving or a profile cut for laser plasma water jet, and also do it for a milling machine under the milling job there. We'll take a look at 3D modeling from here. So I'll blank out this job that we just did. We've got the drawing, and if I want to extrude it out, I just go to Create 3D, go to Extrude Boss, select the whole drawing here. Now it's showing that there's no surfaces in it. It kind of caught me when I was looking at it in the profile cut. I think there was an extra entity somewhere along here. Oh no, there's a break in the geometry, I think it was. And if I wasn't able to find that, we can, this is a good transition here. So if I wasn't able to find the bad geometry in the file, I could go here to my select mode. I could hold shift and chain select part of the drawing here. And it's showing that at a certain location where it stops, either at this point of the arc or this point of the arc, yeah, there's that extra line that I saw in the profile here under the tabs. I was wondering what that was. That is this guy here. So if I wanted to get rid of that one, I could just easily go here to select mode, select it, hit delete on my keyboard, or since it was just one entity and it wasn't intersecting anything, I could go to my utilities and trim it away with quick trim as well. So now I'll go back to my select mode, hold shift and click. It should chain select the whole inner profile there. If I hold shift and click, it should select the whole outer profile. And now I'm expecting it to stop right here at this location. Maybe not. Maybe it's just a tolerance issue that I'm looking at here. Let me just double check by going to quick trim two entities. Okay, yeah, that looks better. So yeah, normally if there was an overlap like that or a gap, when I go into so when I go in, hold shift and click, again it'll chain select all the way out to where that chain is broken, you could say. There's a break in the chain. And then I zoom in right at that intersection and delete it out, which I've already done there. So I have a closed chain for each of the profiles now. I can go back to Create 3D, go to Extrude Boss, and select the drawing. And now you can see it's closed geometry. It's not just those open surfaces that we had before. And then click OK. We've got the 3D model from there. Now, if I wanted to just extrude the outer profile and not cut away from the inside areas here, I just go to Extrude Boss and I can chain select the outer profile just to extrude that out. Say, for example, I wanted a pocket. Let me Extrude Boss this the opposite direction. So instead of the positive direction, I'll leave that at 0. And the other direction, or negative direction, it'll be extruding out an inch downward. We also have a draft angle option. So this will give us tapered walls towards the bottom here. So it will give us tapered walls on the sides of the part as well. We have that option. So I will extrude it out 1 inch. And then say I want a pocket, so I could pocket it out with a milling machine on the inside here. I can go to Extrude Cut and then select the inner profiles of these two here. This surface is giving me an issue where I'm not letting me select the entities here, the lines and arcs. I can either go to my layers page. If I open that up, I have my layers page here. I can right click, add a new layer. I can click on this solid, right click in the CAD workspace, modify attributes to a certain layer. So I want to modify it instead of it being on this CAD layer. I want it to be on this layer I just created, layer 1, so that I can blank or hide that layer so I don't have that solid in there anymore. so that when I go into extrude cut, I can easily chain select the two inner profiles there. Select the distance. I'm going to extrude cut past the solid there to create the pocket, or like I was saying, we can make a pocket of a 1/2 inch if we don't want to go all the way through. Say we want a depth of just a 1/2 inch here, and show the solid, and this is how it would look like. From there, I'm kind of curious if it will do the taper if we did a draft angle. We did a draft angle, we'll say 10 degrees maybe. This one won't. This one won't work because of the tight geometry there. It won't do 10 degrees. It will do 5 degrees though. So if I click OK, then we've got a pocket with a 5-degree taper angle on the sides there. Other than that, the other way of, instead of having to make a new layer and we want everything on the same, layer, we want to just temporarily hide the solid. Say for example, go to extrude boss, extrude it out 1 inch downward, and then extrude cut to cut away from the solid model. We also have a hotkey for showing and hiding solids, just as we have the I key for the image to show and hide the image that we had in BobART. We can hit S for solid to show and hide the solid, so that we can hide it for now. Click the two inner shapes there, and then we can hit S again to show the solid, so that we can see our work done with that extrude cut. Yeah, so then from there, that's our 3D modeling from an image that was vectorized, and then 3D model it here. Thinking of some other options that we have. If we want to just create a surface for this, we can go to planar surface, highlight the whole drawing there, and create a flat shape from our 2D wireframe. That's about it, because it's a flat shape. We don't really have skin surfacing options. That's for curved 3D wireframe, revolve surface. Yeah, I think that's about it with create 3D. With create 2D, I mean, you saw you could add to it, trim and break for this drawing, drag, corner, and deform. And then again, if we have this vectorized image, of course we can translate it, rotate it, mirror it. At any point, if we don't want it 12 by 12 anymore, say we want to go to scale, and we want to make it half the size, we can set the scale factor to 0.5, which would be half of the size of what we have now. This is in decimal form, so if we went to 0.75, it would be 75% of scale factor of what we're at now. 0.5 would be 50%, of course. 0.5, there we go. And we also have non-uniform scale. So if we want to stretch the drawing in a certain direction, say we want everything X, Y, and Z to be 1-to-1 scale, and we want to make the X 90% of what it is, and maybe make the Y direction 125% of what it is at the moment. Make it a little bit larger there. Yeah, that's about it with modifying the drawing and 3D modeling the drawing from a vectorized image. We also have the emboss option. So we'll go back to this here. Kind of want to move that in. So I'm just going to make this a line real quick, so that we're not on the other side of the y-axis for this one. Okay, so now we can go to our emboss option in BobART. So we'll open BobART Manager again. Place everything in here like we did before. We've got our vectorization, we've got our image. I'm going to blank that out again, and you can see the differences now. Move those two arcs on there to make that closed chain. But yeah, we'll blank the image. We'll go to our emboss model option. Now the one I normally use for this is emboss regular. Pretty straightforward. We can set the size of the embossed model. So we'll select the canvas size. We'll say 12 inches by 12 inches because that's the image size here, or the drawing size that I have is 12 by 12. So I'll set it up that way, and that's about it. Well, we have an option for texture appearance. So if we want it to look like a certain type of metal or wood, we've got some texture options. So when it's embossed, it'll look like this diamond plate, metal, shape, brushed bronze, brushed metal. Wood, we have some different options, so you can see that wood grain when we're embossing it. I'll select some of those options after the basic emboss here. So we'll click OK. We've got just a flat shape here, and then we can emboss outward from the drawing that we have. And we can do this by right-clicking on emboss. We'll go back to emboss regular. And we have add or subtract. So right now we'll start with add. We can change the curvature of how we're embossing it. So if we're looking at it diagonally here, for example, or isometrically, it'll create kind of like bubble letters. It'll have this convex arc going outward. We have a concave arc, so it'll kind of shoot up with the surfaces to emboss it. Line, so it's basically just a tapered angle extrude boss, basically, is what this would do. Convex or concave ellipse, so different curvature there, kind of goes outward and then projects to the side there instead of a more circular, I guess you could say, for arc versus ellipse. Spline and custom, where you have more of an option to change how you want the curvature to look. So make it look maybe something like a spline there, or sorry, maybe more like an ellipse there. And so we'll add to the stock that we currently have. And again, I'll hit S. Well, actually, no, sorry. So S is for extrude boss and extrude cut. E is to show or hide and emboss. So that's another hotkey for you. I is to show and hide the image. S is to show and hide a solid from our CAD 3D extrude boss. And here in the emboss for BobART, it's E for echo to show and hide the emboss. And I'm going to hide it for a second just so that I can select all of my geometry, show it again. I guess it doesn't really matter, it's not going to highlight the emboss, but just helpful to show and hide, know about that hotkey. So here you can see with the emboss, does kind of well on everything except for going inside, it kind of folds in on each other. See if I can change the curvature a little more to help that. That actually helped a lot. But also you can see, even if you've got it folding in on each other, or if you've got these sharp points that the emboss comes to, the sharp corners here, and by all means, if you want to smooth out any of the emboss after you've created it, we do have kind of a hand tool, which is really useful. So we right click on emboss model. We have a smoothing option here. So this smooth whole model will smooth it all at once. And the smoothing window size is just kind of the power of how smooth you want it, I guess you could say. Once we click OK, and then regenerate, I believe. Or I may need to make it either smaller or larger numbered here to help with it. And I think we need to select the geometry of the drawing as well. Maybe a higher number here will help. There we go. So I hit apply. You can see how much smoother it is than it was before. And then, yeah, okay, so I'll change the strength of it from 0.25, I'll change it to 0.01. And then regenerate, it will kind of go back to what it was. So yeah, the smoothing tool is really helpful. So you can do it all in one go. If you want to do it manually, kind of like a hand tool option, like I was saying, you can right click here and you have sculpting option. So deposit and remove kind of removes areas here. You can see it just kind of cuts away from the shape that I'm going to look at it from a top view to see it being removed. Deposit looks like it's adding to it. Yeah. Add, remove, deposit, remove. Not in view mode. And then you also have this smoothing hand tool. So we have undo last operation. I'm going to do all of that deposit and remove options. I usually just use the smoothing tool here. And I can change the diameter of the smoothing tool. We'll maybe make it 1 inch in diameter. Make it easier to smooth things out. And then change the strength of it. I'll go with 0.1 to start with so that it doesn't take me so long to smooth this area out. So if I want to smooth out maybe this area here and this area along the corners, I just click on my mouse and hold down, and it starts to smooth it away, or smooth the corners there a little bit better. You can see that now I smoothed that area. It didn't go all the way around the arc, so that it just smoothed into those corners and into this corner. I go in, I'm just going to do this arc again so that we can see it, for example. And I'm just clicking and holding on my mouse button right now. So I'll click right now, go all the way around, go here, click, and now I'm smoothing it out more. And then I'll click OK, and then move around, and you can see it a lot smoother than what it was before. If I delete this sculpting here, we can see the difference of what it was when I smoothed it out and what it was before here. So yeah, you can smooth out a 3D model, be able to do a 3-axis milling operation on this guy here to mill out a logo. Oh, and one other option with this is the add emboss. If we right click and edit this add, we can change it from add to subtract to get the negative of this model here. And then again, we can smooth it out to make these corners in here a little bit smoother so that we can mill out this area of the logo in 3D as well. Very useful stuff here with the emboss. I'm trying to think of any other options in here. So this is the emboss regular if you want to emboss the whole drawing from into a 3D model like this. Some other options, we've got emboss swept, emboss 2-rail sweep, emboss from image. So it goes right, instead of having to vectorize the drawing and then emboss it, you can emboss it straight from an image. What else? Emboss from a surface. And 2-rail sweep, what I'm familiar with, just like the sweep option. You're selecting, selecting geometry, selecting certain profile chains. So we're selecting like this guy here, selecting the profile chain for the second one, for example, and it should do a sweep along the two entities there. This one kind of maybe the cross, let's see, selected geometry. Okay, maybe I have to delete all that. one geometry. I think we have to select one intersecting the two, I believe. Oh, come on. There we go. But we do have some emboss options in our examples page to help with tutorials on these types of options here as well. Might have to make this a line on the inside instead. Oh, also you have to make sure that the lines, the direction you've selected, are going the same direction there. I'm going to try going in the middle here, just to test it out. Try this one more time. Yeah, so something like that. We've got a swept surface of what we've selected from the two lines there. Yeah, and then so that's our two rail sweep. That's our emboss regular, which is the one that I like best. We can easily create the negative of this drawing here. We can create let me try the two rail sweep one more time, where we can identify or separate the areas just to specifically do some areas here. Cross section. Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it creates the cross. So tapered surface based on that. Let me go back to the emboss regular. Select the drawing and click OK. Get rid of the lines here. There we go. There we go. All right, so we've got the negative of it, and we also have the texture option from primitives that we've got. No, sorry. Let's see. We can do a different color, and I know we have that texture option here, so let me see if I can do that too. Texture. You can do a texture from an image, which is pretty cool. And trying to find where that texture. Oh wow, texture for so a weave texture. We can select certain things like that here. But I'm trying to find where we have our own set up automatically here in the software. From primitives, that's interesting. Let me regenerate. Actually, let me delete all of this. Generate. There we go. Edit canvas, I think, is the option. Yep, so that's from where we started. So to begin, I'm going to go from the beginning to where we are now. So what we did is we did edit canvas, selected the height, and we can click texture appearance. So let's go with one of these wood options. We'll select cherry. You can see the wood grain there. Merge texture with canvas color. Interesting. Pretty cool. And then we can do the emboss. I was thinking that the texture changes. Let me go to add. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the texture doesn't really show there. It just kind of helps with the 3D model. You can make a print of it or what have you to see it pretty well there. Yeah, I think that's all it's used for. Let me try the metal one time to see if that changes anything. Yeah, it doesn't change the actual shape of it. Just lets you see how it is with different textures in there. like how it would look with using a certain wood that you're using. You can see the certain texture and how it would look once it's cut out there, for example. But yeah, after that, that's about it with the emboss option. I think that's about it with the BobART module here. The big features there are going to be importing an image, vectorizing it to create the drawing from the image here. We have our emboss option from either a drawing or from an image. We have our extrude boss and extrude cut from the vectorized image as well. And we have our profile cut that we saw if we wanted to cut out the vectorized image. If we wanted to do an engraving of this, we can also project it onto a surface to do a 3D engraving as well, or 3-axis engraving along a curved surface also, or along a tapered surface, what have you. That is about it with the BobART module. I'm going to check your guys' questions. Looks like there's nothing going on in the questions box here. If you guys have any questions, please let me know here. For the next few minutes, I'll answer any questions that you guys had with the demo. Thank you, or with the webinar today. Thank you for coming in to take a look at it here today. Pretty short and to the point here with BobART. I think it's a very simple program, very user-friendly, easy to use. To go from an image and vectorize it to a drawing is a very easy program to use to figure out how to use it and program a certain logo you want to engrave on a part, or even cut out like with this one, like with the emboss, be able to do a 3D roughing and finish here. Once you've created the emboss, just go to like a Z-level rough and a planer to cut out the shape in 3-axis with that kind of like a wood a block of wood to cut out this 3D shape also for any kind of logo that you guys have. So Ken, in Vectorize there are other settings. If I could review that, let's see. So other Vectorize options. We blink out the emboss. We blink out the milling job here. So other Vectorize options. So I'm familiar with the 2-level Vectorize strategy and multicolor strategy that we went over. But we can go through some of the other options there. So yeah, like resolution. Yeah, good question there. So we'll let's blank out this drawing. All right. So we'll start from the beginning here. Load an image. Select that image again. Make things easy on me. And so we've got so we went with origin is the origin point where you want it to be. You want it lined up at the CAD origin point. That's where this is. We can also change the location here with the X, Y, and Z locations. We got our rotation angle, keep aspect ratio, X and Y sizes, our transparency of the image there if you want to make it transparent for whatever reason, and then we'll click OK. And then we'll go to vectorize. So we've got, again, our 2-level and multicolor strategy, our threshold value for the slider, output type with arcs or not with arcs. I believe it would just create line segments. If, let's see here, if I select it, entity summary. Yeah, so we've got 234 lines in this drawing from the image. The blanked number is the original drawing, which was 37 lines and 34 arcs. So if you want to, for whatever reason, if your machine doesn't take arcs very well, we can break it up into little tiny line segments and cut out the shape in line segments instead of arcs. That's what that option is for. And accuracy. So with accuracy, it has to do with tolerance of creating the arcs in here, creating the lines and arcs in here so that we can, you can see, remove chains of less than 10. We'll say like the accuracy, we'll want it a little bit tighter, and then remove chains less than 2. We'll just test that out. And so we will blank, yeah, so I've blanked that out already. And let's see. Oh wow. So accuracy is, if I made it a very tight tolerance, it's going to try its hardest to follow along the tiny pixelation of the image. So we want to get somewhere between this and one, like, say for example, it's going to be like maybe an arc all the way around that doesn't follow along the image, for example. So this is too tight of a tolerance at 10 thousandths. By default, it's at 800 thousandths, which is a pretty good accuracy level you can see there. And removing chains of less than 2, so you'll, let's see, seems like it's breaking up it more than I expected with the removed chains. We'll go to accuracy. So this is set by default. We'll change it to 10. And accuracy will change to 5. And we'll blank the image. That doesn't look much different. So I mean, it's more of a tolerance setting. We'll take a look at the image of how it looks different. I mean, that's really not too bad. But then again, you see here, it doesn't go to this corner point. So somewhere in between that 10 thousandths level where it goes and stair steps all the way along these pixels, and then 5 for the accuracy. I believe that's 5 inches considering. It's going to, the accuracy isn't going to be as perfect as it would somewhere between that and the 10 thou that I set. So 800 thousandths is our default setting. It's I would say the best setting that you can use. And it's also dependent on the pixelation of the image as well. For example, if you've got a very pixelated image that you bring in, and you would want to go with a higher number for the accuracy than a lower number, so it doesn't follow along those pixels too much. Let's see what you got. In vectorized resolution and parameters. How does parameters change? Also more settings in multicolor. Parameters. Vectorized parameters. Yep, accuracy, remove chains less than. Multicolor strategy. We got the vectorized parameters. Check all or uncheck all, and colors to be vectorized. So let's find an image real quick with let's say like wildlife clip art. Let's see if there's one with a bunch of colors in it. Something not too difficult. This one doesn't look too bad. I mean, we'll try it, but I mean, something like with the black and white is perfect for BobCAD, for the BobART BobART package. You can see this one's a little blurry, a little pixelated, so you might have issues with something like that. But something with a clean image like this is going to be a very clean vectorization, just like we had with the logo. So let's try something like this here. Let's try this one. That one will be good. Save image and save it in my downloads. That was not too bad. You've got like, I don't know, maybe 10 colors there instead of more like 20 or 30 on the other one. So we'll go back to BobART. Go to a new file. Load image from my downloads. I don't think it was a JPEG, but I'm really not sure. Go to all files. There we go. So here's the image that it brings in. Starts at 5.1 by 3.6 in the Y direction. Not too bad. It's a little pixelated, you can see there. But we'll just run with it and go to vectorize. So here's the two-level strategy all the way outward with this threshold value. And then if I move the slider lower, you already start to see the head of the duck change so that we can get the detailed shape of the head there, the detailed geometry of the feathers. And then as I keep going, move further and further out, then when I go too far, then everything becomes white. And with the pixelation, it's not going to get the border of the deer here. So I want to go further to the right to make sure to get that. So that's not too bad. Of course, the feathers, we may want to get rid of those because that's going to come in all messy. But the profile is pretty good. I'll go back into the vectorization and then get rid of the feathers. We'll go out to here, and then we've got the outside profile. We may want to clean this up a little bit, but other than that, we've got the profiles of the shapes of the animals that we can work with. Then we'll go to the multicolor strategy. So number of colors, we'll start with 3. So it brings in the black, the tan, and the off-white color for the feathers and the duck, the whitetail deer there. Uncheck all or check all, click apply. You'll get everything of the 3 colors there. We'll try for more. Try with 6. We've got the red for the turkey, red for the eye of the duck. We've got a darker and a lighter tan for the deer so that it'll get the vectorization of all of those as well. Let's see. And I think that's about it with the multicolor strategy. So number of colors, accuracy, with arcs, or if we want to just do tiny line segments there. And then with parameters, yeah, this is the only parameters that I can see here, Ken. Let me know if there was anything else that you were having questions on. We've got the vectorized parameters for the 2-level and the multicolor strategy. We're able to change the accuracy of each of the accuracy or the tolerance of the vectorization of the entities with arcs or without arcs, and remove chains. And it's kind of self-explanatory. I think it'll remove, it'll try to, like say for example, I change it to 1. It's going to try to do each chain in one entity or one line segment, for example, while it's going around there. Yeah, no problem, Ken. Did you guys have any other questions with the BobART module? Anything else you wanted to go over today, or any other questions that you had on anything else in the software there? Please let us know here. I'm going to be logging off in a couple minutes. And if you have any other technical questions, any questions you have about the software program, any issues you've got while you're working in it, you can call us. Our technical support line is 727 489-0003. And you can also email us with any questions. You can leave a voicemail on that line if it's after hours, and we can get back to you the very next day that we're in. And then you can also email us at any time. You can also email us with a part file attached or anything else, any other attachments you've got questions about, screenshots in the software, things like that. If you want to email us, our email address is support@bobcad.com. So Steve, how do we get into start from the main menu? Not sure which main menu you're talking about. So again, we have the BobART menu here. I don't know if you're talking about BobART or not, but we've got the BobART tab down here at the bottom normally so that we can start vectorizing the image. If we don't have the page open by default, then we just right click here at the top to open the BobART manager. Just when you download version 35. So once you've downloaded version 35, it's going to ask you here if you want to run on this page that pops up. It'll ask you if you want to run as a demo, which I don't have that option because I've already got it registered. Register automatically via the internet or register manually via email. You select automatically via internet and type in your license ID and password from your invoice that we send you so that you can register the software program, and you can register at any time there for that. Is that what you were asking about there, Steve? See if you had any other questions about the main menu there. Main menu, it's under File, Help, and Activate License. You can also transfer your license at any time to remove the license from this computer. And you can, say for example, you're on your work computer now, you want to transfer to your laptop, work from home after hours, you can easily transfer the license from one computer. You just hit that button automatically via the internet, type in your license ID, and it removes the license from this computer so that you can activate on another computer. You can go back and forth as many times as you want there with the with BobCAD with the newer versions. Also show license status, it'll show your license. Depending on what you have on your license that you've purchased, we've got our BobART tab right here, BobART module. We went over Mill Express and CAD also. But yeah, if you've got 3, 4, 5 axis milling, wire EDM, lathe, anything checked off is what you've got on your license there. Yeah, please let me know if you've got any other questions there. Yeah, no problem, Steve. Yeah, I hope I answered your question there. To activate license, also with your BobART tab there, new file, recent files, user profile if you want to change the interface around, move your CAD functions and move the CAD tree, CAM tree off your monitor wherever you want them to. You can save it so that it'll load in for next time. All right, yeah, if you guys don't have any other questions, thank you again for tuning in to the BobART webinar this week. I'm going to be doing next week's webinar as well, and that is, if you go to BobCAD-support.com, it will show you what we've got lined up under training and virtual training schedule. So I'm doing next week's as well. It's going to be 2D CAD and mill live event. So we'll be going through some of this stuff, the engraving and things like that next week as well. And then the week after, BobCAM plugin for SolidWorks, 5-axis milling. If you guys have the plugin for SolidWorks, we've got that opportunity 2 weeks from now. But yeah, I'll see you guys next week with the 2D CAD and mill live event. And if not, thank you guys again for viewing the webinar today, and hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you again.